Economy continue today at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Each year, the theme of inequality runs like a thread through the debate, yet inequality across the globe continues to worsen.
Davos, the playground of the world's rich and famous, a place where politicians and captains of industry make an annual pilgrimage to chill and talk about the latest goings-on in the world economy and global politics. For many years now, the ever-widening gap between rich and poor has been a constant feature of discussions here. But so far, little has come out of it.
Should the developing world realistically expect that a meeting in Switzerland can solve the inequality and poverty problems that poor countries suffer from? Absolutely not. I think that's beyond the scope of anything that the Davos could achieve. And I think the role and importance of influence of Davos there is overstated. Already it's the case that Vladimir Putin out of Russia doesn't attend Davos. The Chinese will have a close look at Davos, but they certainly won't use Davos as a forum at which to make domestic policy for China. And I think the emerging world and the developing world, and there are positive stories there, that the developing world now leads global growth figures, should use its own forums and its own homebred solutions to solve its internal problems of inequality levels and high levels of poverty.
Meanwhile, inequality is getting worse. The international aid agency Oxfam has released a new report which estimates that by next year, the richest 1% of the world's population will own more wealth than the other 99% of the world's population. It has called on politicians and business people attending Davos to act urgently.
The solutions are there and they are known. First of all, we must stop tax dodging and introduce and close all the loopholes that these rich companies and rich people use to avoid paying their fair share of taxes. And we must have a system that taxes progressively so that the richer pay more and the poor pay less in taxes.
South Africa is one of the countries that seem to take Davos very seriously, and it happens to be among the countries that are said to have the highest levels of inequality in the world.
We are home to 0.7% of the world's youth, but we are home to 4.6% of the world's unemployed youth. So we have a particular unique domestic problem of very high levels of youth unemployment. That's a problem that cannot be solved in Davos. It cannot be solved by Piketty and global discussions about how inequality might play itself out in middle-class economies. It's a domestic South African problem that will only ever be resolved in the South African economy and by South African policymakers making decisions in areas such as education and labour policy for the country.
But unlike many other countries, the South African government seems to be trying very hard to close the income gap.
I think it's extraordinary the extent to which income in South Africa is redistributed through the tax system. About 60% of government expenditure in South Africa goes towards free and subsidized services in areas ranging from education to healthcare to water to electricity and on social welfare. So 6 out of every 10 rands the government spends are rands that are redistributed to poor communities to sustain their admittedly low standards of living.
The International Labour Organization has called on countries around the world to introduce a minimum wage. It sees this as a crucial step towards closing the income gap. The South African government is due to begin formal talks with business and labour this year on the introduction of a national minimum wage.
A number of industries in South Africa already officially apply minimum wages. Agriculture, household, people who work in households, for example. There are de facto, perhaps not regulated minimum wages in industries such as mining, which have gone to significant efforts, especially in the political aftermath of the Marikana massacre, to increase wage levels in those industries. Politically, it's a double-edged sword in South Africa. Set the minimum wage level too high, in the absence of significant economic growth and high levels of skills, and you're pricing poor people out of jobs. But set the minimum wage level too low, and you are creating for yourself a political hot potato that you don't want to handle.
And so, once again, the world's politicians and business elite will discuss the problem of global income inequality. but very few people outside Davos expect any concrete solutions to come out of it. Mbongeni Mutwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.